rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is towards the back of the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its meeting held on January 6, 2015. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona City Times, the Star Ledger, the Herald News, the Township of Verona, and the Verona Education Association. Postings of this meeting set forth the time, location, and agenda. We're posting each of Verona's 6 schools, the board office, and town hall. This posting was also sent to the newspapers, all SCA presidents, and SCA liaisons. The Verona Board of Education operates under a consent agenda format. Any board member has a right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public present. Mr. Day?
Here.
Mrs. Fresky?
Here.
Mr. Yunus?
Here.
Mr. Bellino?
Here.
Mr. Quattrucci?
Here. All right, welcome to our final meeting in April. And on behalf of the board, we apologize for being late. We had a confidential meeting just before this with an agenda that was a bit too hefty to get into now, so we ran over. Before we get into our presentations, do we have any public comment or question on anything on the agenda itself? Okay, we have 3 presentations tonight. First, we have Doc Siegel to talk about the elementary STEM program. Proxy by Ms. Monticello.
Tonight, it's Forest Avenue School's evening to present, and I thought that it would be nice to showcase the STEM program, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And it's an elementary STEM program, so it's not just Forest Avenue School, but it's something that we do and I thought was noteworthy to bring to the board. Because today there's more demand for positions in the workforce in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. And there are not as many students pursuing degrees in the fields to keep up with that demand. So it's the hope of introducing a STEM program, which we did here in Verona about 3 years ago, to elementary students, and eventually hopefully continuing it throughout the school system at different levels of education, where we'll eventually have more children pursuing careers in those areas. Dr. Larry Siegel, more affectionately known as Doc by the Verona students, is our elementary STEM teacher. He travels around to each of the 4 elementary schools, spending a day plus a few periods on that 5th day at each of the schools. And he works with our 1st through 4th grade students. The 1st and 2nd grade students, he does enrichment activities with general enrichment. And then 3rd and 4th grade is where the STEM program begins. And those students receive 45 minutes a week instruction with him, and he'll go into detail about what that instruction involves, and our students will showcase some of their work. And it's all hands-on, problem-solving, problem-based activities in which kids need to critically think, and as we say with our VC program too, we have to think outside the box. And the kids love it. You walk down past Doc's room, there's always active engagement, kids moving around, doing projects, hands-on. The gen ed teacher stays with the students at Doc to assist, so the student-teacher ratio, if you have a class of 25, now you have 2 teachers working with those 25 students. And both teachers will provide support and facilitation to those students. So at this time, I'll introduce Doc, and he can get into the details about STEM.
This will be more brief because I took my first page. Well, I do believe that our elementary engineering curriculum is the best in the country. That's a little bravado from somebody coming like that from me, but there are a few reasons why I make that claim. Oh, by the way, I decided I would read this because since there's another agenda, I thought that brevity has its place. Well, there are a few reasons why I make that claim. The Verona Board of Ed approved the program 2 years ago, and in this vein, they have supported this action plan for the 21st century. Principals, Mrs. Julie DiGiacomo, sorry I'm old, ladies still come first in my world. Dr. Anthony Lanzo, Mr. Richard Rampola, and Mr. Jeff Monticelli. I can mention him last because I'm almost old enough to be his father. have offered such terrific support that it is a joy to be in every building throughout the week. Superintendent Rui Denicio has championed the program, as well as Director of Curriculum, Mr. Charles Miller. On one given day, Charlie, Glenn, and I were flying paper airplanes in the Board of Ed complex in order to test the efficacy of flight distance regarding the scale and proportion of each airplane. Yes, folks, engineers really do have fun. You heard me mention Glenn, and this dovetails into why I believe that Verona's elementary engineering program is truly the finest in the country. You see, 2 years ago, December, I was teaching literature and math enrichment to 3rd and 4th graders. The K-12 science and math supervisor emailed me, "I have to see you," okay? She arrives and after a few pleasantries said, "You're going to be teaching engineering in September." After what I'm guessing was a deer in the headlights moment, I was thinking about Caltech and MIT, saying, I don't know. I gathered myself and responded, "You've got to be kidding," or words to that effect. To shorten the story, I went online that night and began to learn as much as possible. 465 pages later, I became somewhat competent, and there was an engineering by design ED curriculum to aid in the program's construction. In August, Mr. Glenn Stevenson was hired as Verona's K-12 science and math supervisor, now engineering STEM supervisor as well. From the beginning, he claimed all I want to do is help. He comes from a secondary education science background. I am from an early childhood education, elementary background, and although I spent decades implementing docs science into the curriculum long before it was fashionable to do so, this engineering gig was a bit of a stretch for me. Immediately, Supervisor Stevenson and I collaborated, just as real engineers do, and the winners have been my students. My own learning curve has been huge. The suggestions and ideas that Glenn has brought to the table and my translation of those ideas into what I refer to as kid speak is why I mentioned earlier that we have the finest elementary engineering program in the United States. The 3rd and 4th grade elementary teachers going into this program as well. They consistently relate curriculum opportunities within their teaching learning process that beautifully dovetails with engineering design concepts. Okay, enough of me. Let's get to what the program is all about. Our students. Can I have my 4 friends up? Okay. And we'll all stand over here. And here, and then I'll just flip this around so everyone can see it a bit. And tell everybody who you are.
The oceans represent 97% of the planet's water. 78% of Earth's water is frozen in Antarctica and Greenland. 21% is underground between rock and sediment. 3% is fresh water found in lakes, rivers, and streams. Engineers have a lot of work to do.
And this little presentation is what we accomplished last year regarding water renewability and pollution. This year we're doing energy, electricity, and you could literally spend 2 months explaining everything, so this is just a thumbnail.
Wait a minute, buddy. Remember, I just turned 65. I can't move as fast as you, man.
Okay, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Antonio Kuzlo. This is yet another way that engineers and mathematicians express percentages and proportions. The Earth's supply of inexpensive and fresh drinking water is so limited that you cannot see it on this diagram from where you sit. Perhaps I should come closer.
All right, let's come closer. It's a real awakening to see how little fresh water there is in the world, and yet it seems to be enough for cycling. So I'll make sure I'm a little more conservative than we used to be. California.
This is not an arts and crafts project. Rather, the bleeding red represents pollution. It begins at a specific site due to currents in lakes, rivers, streams, and oceans, and in places that we cannot always predict. Wind and water move pollution from place to place. Our health and quality of life faces a huge challenge on the creativity and the collaboration of the engineering community.
Yeah, rain, erosion, and terrain, really, we don't know where it all goes. So watch what goes down the sewer.
My name is Fred. Much of our fresh water comes from aquifers, underground lakes below the surface of the earth. This study of fresh water must be kept of pollutants. We created an engineering project that illustrated how pollution can infiltrate rock and soil sediments.
In our collaborative teams, we combine water and pollution in order to determine what natural materials would prevent pollution from settling in our drinking water. The densest, thickest materials like sedimentary sand, soil, gravel, and rock are essential. Thank goodness civil engineers know this. However, engineers have a lot of work to do in order to keep our drinking water clean. By the way, we know this too because we did the engineering experiments and kept technical records.
A lot of filtering. Just doing filtering.
Mr. Glenn Stevenson, the big guy, taught Doc about scale and proportion. The 6-inch models of the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building that you buy as souvenirs in New York would not look exactly like the full-size objects. The proportion was not maintained as engineers scale up in size.
This project, the study, the scale and proportion, just unbelievable. Okay,
Doc has a passion for studying World War II, his father's war. He has a die cast of the model, a model of the P-51 Mustang fighter plane. We traced it and enlarged it at least to twice the scale while maintaining proportion. We learned a great deal about the work of real working engineers.
This diagram
wait a minute. I was 65 a week ago Sunday. You gotta give me a little break. See what I look like here? Come on.
This diagram, Dr. Bloom's pyramid, helps students to be aware of their learning level. The lower bands begin with facts, memory, and explanation. The upper bands require more brain work, applying and analyzing what students know, what works and doesn't work in the engineering design process. Remember, engineers do not fail, rather they learn ways not to do things. Finally, engineers strive to reach the top of the pyramid, create, develop new products, and engineers create new designs in order to meet the wants and needs of consumers around the world.
The engineering design process is used by engineers around the world for designing new projects and technologies and improving old ones. Engineers form collaborative teams and come up with solutions to solve problems. That is why the EDP is not shown in the line. In a row, engineers are always going to back to the problem or design to be solved. How do they know if the design model works? They test it. Either it works, must be re-engineered, or components need to be retooled. Doc told us that we never fail. Rather, we learn ways not to do something, just like real engineers.
Yeah, a lot of schools in the United States. A lot of schools have gotten on the bandwagon that they're study schools. You add a little bit of math and science or vice versa, but you really have to teach the engineering design process, and in that way, and that's because real engineers tell me that ability to write. The very last thing, and okay, I'll read this. Engineers take apart items, and that's called reverse engineering. And our third and fourth grade students reverse engineered a solar calculator. We made measured technical drawings and learned that the numbers do not appear on the screen by magic. They are the result of science, math, and engineering design. The drawings on this poster represent this work. I think third and fourth graders, are you kidding? It's just phenomenal. I didn't do it. Look at this, I can't get over it. And this is roughly, this is 348 third and fourth grade students in all the elementary schools. Thank you very much, appreciate your time. Great.
I just want to add, thank you very much, Dr. Siegel and Jeff, for the presentation and kids. That was great. Both my kids were at the beginning of STEM when it came out, and I know when they came home, it was always a great class they came home to talk about. So I think it's a great thing to continue on with science and technology for our schools, elementary, and starting at this young age. It's very, very impressive. So thank you very much for a great job tonight.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Dr. Siegel, Mr. Monticelli, and the students for coming out tonight. It's wonderful to see that you're enjoying the EBD classes, the STEM classes so much. And as you move on into the middle school, we have a lot of exciting classes there as well. There's a coding class, a programming class, more STEM classes coming next year. So there are a lot of choices there. And then when you get to Verona High School, there are a lot of options as well with computer science and computer programming. So a lot to look forward to. So if it's an area that you're really passionate about and you really love to study, keep with it. So very proud of you, and thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
Real quick, just two of the tidbits while there's lots of parents here and all. As Mr. Dionisio said, as you guys, as students leave the elementary grades, we already have various computer science courses in the middle school, the 5th and the 6th grade, and those will be expanded in the coming years to be more so. And I never thought, I'm not quite as seasoned as Doc is, but I never thought I'd see computer science down in the 5th grade, let alone some of the great things you're doing in the elementaries. The other thing is between speakers, I mumbled over to Mr. Dionisio, and I couldn't remember specifically what it was. It was either computer science or STEM. Forget if it's two statistics. One is, as a percentage of total students, we are by far #1 in the state of New Jersey in the percentage of students of the total. So not number of students, but the percentage given the size of the school that participate in computer science curriculum out of 600 something districts in the state. And secondly, when it comes to STEM overall and computer science, we have, I think it was either as many or I believe it's more female students in the engineering and STEM-oriented courses as male students, which is really an anomaly. It's really a special thing in Verona that we get that kind of diversity. So hats off to bringing it down to the earlier grades. It's going to be tough for them.
It starts there,
Yeah.
and the girls know that they can all do anything they want because I said so.
Yeah. My experiences, and we get reminded often. So that's great. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Parisian with our athletics winter sports wrap-up. Take a minute to
Okay, the winter season athletic participation increased slightly from last year, including 96 boys and 74 girls, for a total of 170 participants. Excuse me. It was also a very successful season, accumulating 64 conference, county, and state honors. On February 1st, Caroline Shibley was chosen to represent Verona High School at the National Women in Sports Day luncheon at Seton Hall University, and Bill Ferrari was honored at the Mayfair Farms for the National Football Foundation Scholar Athlete Award on March 11th. For the second year in a row, ice hockey won their Winter Classic 3-0 versus Tenafly at the Englewood Field Club in sub-20-degree weather. Boys basketball was a state semifinalist and received the number 4 seed in the state tournament, finishing with a 13-12 record. The team went on to the championship game of the annual Christmas tournament, advanced to the second round of the county tournament, and made it to the semifinals of the state tournament before falling to the eventual state champion Cresskill. The team finished in 4th place in the Super SS Conference Colonial Division, which is extremely competitive. Big wins included defeating Shabazz, Caldwell, Livingston, Science Park, and Southbrook, along with Patterson Charter in the state tournament. Will Mulberry also received first team all-conference. Each year, the boys team conducts a shoot-a-thon with proceeds going to the charity Coaches versus Cancer. This year, the players decided to send a donation closer to home after a 2014 Caldwell High School graduate and athlete was stricken with cancer. So the team raised $1,000 for the Hope and Heroes Foundation connected with the Columbia University Medical Center. The girls basketball team finished with an overall record of 13-12 in 4th place as the only Group 1 school in that division, and finished right behind 3 powerhouses, Livingston, Orange, and Bluefield. The girls also made it to the first round of the county tournament, which has not occurred in many years. The girls worked hard all season and really showed character, battling with some of the top teams in the state before falling in the quarterfinal round of the Group 1 North 1 state tournament to Cresskill. Sarah O'Neill received honors for first team all-conference independent division. The girls and boys indoor track team this year, the boys team qualified for the group meet in the 4x400, the 400 meter, 800 meter, 1600 meter, and shot put. And congratulations to Christian Grun, who secured the North 2 Group 1 State Section Championship in the shot put. The girls team also conducted their annual walkathon for breast cancer research, raising $1,500. Angel Barkley, Maggie Ashley, Jessica Williams, and Julia Ashley took first place in the Essex County Sprint Medley and first place in the Group 1 State Section in the 4x4. which also they set a new school record. Julia Ashley returned after major knee surgery and didn't waste any time competing in the winter track. It's no wonder she was selected by NJ.com as the Super Essex Conference Winter Track Athlete of the Year for 2014 and 15 because of her following achievements. First team All-State Group 1 in the 400 meter, third team All-State in the 400, first team All-Essex County in the 400 and 800 meters. That was selected by the Essex County coaches. She's a META Champions medal winner in the 400 and an Eastern States medal winner in the 800. She is the Verona High School girls winter record holder in the 55 meter, 400 meter, 800 meter, 1600 meter, and also anchored 3 school record relays, the 4x2, 4x4, and the sprint medley. Will each girl please come forward when I call your name to receive your certificate? Maggie Ashley, Angel Barkley. It's okay, you can go. And Jessica Williams. Wrestling had another successful season with many fine young men competing in the postseason. Frank Gabriel and Mark Riggio were selected for the first team All-SEC Liberty Division, with Mark also securing a spot as a district champion and then going on to the regions and state tournament in Atlantic City. He is only the 6th wrestler in school history to do this. There were also 7 wrestlers who qualified for the regions this year as opposed to only 2 last year. Also, the team finished with an overall record of 15-10 and 7-0 in the conference, which led to their achievement as conference champions. This is the 3rd conference wrestling championship in 6 years. The team also raised $2,500 for Alzheimer's research through the 3rd annual effort with Montclair and Princeton High School's wrestling teams. Congratulations to the head coach, Pete Foster, and assistant coaches, Chris Hardenberg and Liam Penberthy. Will the wrestlers please come forward as I call your name? Joe Ballantyne. Tyler Zupak. Julia Zupak. Mike DeSoma. Matt Padilla. Billy Fauerbach. Mark Gibson. Carter Kenny. Jimmy Loudman. AJ Penway. Jay Corso. Mark Riggio. And Brian Wagner. Once again, we congratulate all the winter teams and thank everyone for making their part in making this a very successful winter season. Other items included National Signing Day was on February 4th, and we had 9 students committing to play their sport as they further their education. Julia Ashley will be attending North Carolina to play soccer. Caroline Shibley will be playing softball at Hamilton. Bill Ferrari will be playing football at Johns Hopkins. Frank Ferrari goes to Colgate also for football. Claire Fitzpatrick will be attending Scranton and playing soccer. Ellis Martin will be attending Goucher and playing soccer. Jake Miller will travel to Westchester for tennis. Mike Cifaretto will be playing football at Susquehanna. And Matt Riccatelli will be attending Ithaca and playing football. Again, congratulations to all these outstanding student athletes. It was really some year. Also coming up on Tuesday, May 5th, Verona will play their annual baseball game versus Cedar Grove at Yogi Berra Stadium, located at Montclair State University. at 7 p.m. And lastly, I wish to thank Paul McDivitt and Gary Grosso, along with the school districts and towns, maintenance and custodial crew for preparing the grounds and facilities for this spring season. It was a hard winter, and they did a lot of hard work to get it back in shape. Thank you for your attention today.
Thank you very much for your Okay, while they're taking a moment to file out, the next presentation for the night is Cheryl Mondino and our 2015-16 budget.
No.
Too dark?
Yeah, too dark. Try one more. Yeah, that's good. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Cheryl Nardino. I'm the School Business Administrator and Board Secretary to the Verona Public Schools. Usually hidden behind that laptop, but here I am. And my responsibility in the district is to manage the school finances, and part of that is putting a school board budget together every year. And this is our annual public hearing. So if there's anyone in the audience later on who wants to ask any questions when this is through, you can do that. Or you can also send me an email if you have specific questions. Everything in the budget is public knowledge, so whatever your questions are, they'll be answered. First thing we want to start off with is the timeline. You know, the administration and the teachers aren't always happy about this timeline, is because it feels like as soon as the students sit in their seats, we're thinking about next year's budget already. So for them, it's a very compressed time frame because they have to give us all their information, their needs, their staffing needs by the end of December, because by the end of January, the board is already seeing the first draft of the budget, discussing it. Between that time frame, January, and this meeting tonight, the board's met over 8 times on this budget. It's every board meeting night we have a committee meeting, and then in between we've had them this year too. You'll see that there'll be public presentations at SCA meetings between April and June, and then in November is the school board election. The only thing that's voted upon are the candidates night. The candidates no longer the school budget itself. There are 2 seats up for re-election. It's Mr. Quattrocci's seat, Mr. Bellino's seat. I warn anyone who runs that if you get elected, the committee you sit on is finance. We've had board members say to us, to Mr. Dinicio and I, well, I want to be on buildings and grounds. Well, let's do that. This is your initiation. Okay, so the next slide, Mr. Dinicio is going to go over it's what this budget buys.
Believe it or not, my eyes are getting a little bad, so I'm going to also have this as a safety zone here. So we have a number of items here, and I'll give an overview of a number of different new additions that we are going to be incorporating in next year's budget. For one, as far as staffing goes, there will be an upcoming presentation by Mr. Miller in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be a presentation on a new house model that is going to be able to provide more support and more organizational structure and also smaller class sizes at the middle school at HBW. Mr. Miller will be presenting on that, and it will also allow for a lot more coordination of services and support for our students in the middle school level in grades 5 through 8. We will also be expanding our vocal and instrumental music program at VHS. Our instrumental music program, we are going to be increasing that second position that we introduced last year. It's a 20% position. That will be increased to 60% for the 2015-16 school year. In addition to that, we are increasing the amount of vocal instruction at Verona High School, and we are bringing on a 40% vocal position at the high school. And in addition to that, we are further enriching the vocal music program at HBW. Currently, we offer general music to our 5th, 6th, and 8th grade. We don't currently offer music to the 7th grade as far as the general music program goes, and now we will be incorporating that in for next year as a cycle class. As far as the innovative programs and implementation over the 5-year strategic plan, we're going to continue with our curriculum improvements, our professional development in the reading and writing workshop in K-4 at the elementary level, and with our STEM initiatives as well. And I'll speak a little bit more to that momentarily. As we move over to the right-hand side, we have some other exciting things that are going to continue. The reading and writing workshop, as I just mentioned, we will be continuing with. The materials for the Syracuse University dual enrollment program at Verona High School. And then next year, we're introducing 2 new advanced placement courses at Verona High School, which has garnered a lot of interest. We have an AP World History class that is going to be offered to 9th grade students. We currently have 1 class of students. I believe we have anywhere between 20 to 24 students currently enrolled for that class. And the AP Human Geography class is open to all students at the high school, and that course is growing as well. So we anticipate anywhere between another 60 students being interested in taking these 2 courses. And the reason that AP World History is only offered to 9th grade as a complement to the CP World History and the Honors World History is because that's where the world history is traditionally in high school curricula. And when students move and advance to 10th grade and 11th grade, they'll go into U.S. History 1, U.S. History 2. They have options for AP U.S. History and other social studies AP courses like AP Government and Politics, AP European History, so there are a lot of other options as well. So this will add a nice complement to students in 9th grade who feel like they want to engage in even a higher rigorous and more rigorous course load as a freshman at Verona High School. We are also going to be continuing with our teachers attending the Columbia University Reading Workshop in New York to end up supporting the K through 4 professional development that's so important for our teachers to teach reading and writing. And we'll be introducing and replacing a number of desktop computers with more affordable and efficient Chromebooks. And the next one that we have there, FDU, is the Fairleigh Dickinson University program. People who have been in attendance at our recent board meetings, we are in the process of partnering with Fairleigh Dickinson for our Orton Gillingham Reading Intervention program that will be available starting next year. We had approximately 41 teachers who expressed interest. The application period with the school district is coming to a close this week, and we have definitely a lot of interest in teachers who are going to be participating in that program next year. And that will allow for the on-site training for our teachers here around the reading intervention program to support our students. The Google Teacher Academy will also be provided through this budget, and we will also then have an incremental budget increase to hockey and lacrosse programs as a phasing out over 5 years of the pay-to-play program, and that will begin next year, 2015-16, and will be incrementally increased through the year 2019-20. Just an overview of some of the new courses. I already mentioned the AP World History and AP Human Geography. A new addition that's exciting for our seniors is rather than just having one option of taking English 4 as a senior or a dual enrollment English course through Seton Hall University, we're bringing in 2 additional half-year electives to offer as a complement and some more choices for our senior students. So students can fulfill those through a humanities course and a speech arts course in senior year, and that would satisfy the English course requirement. And it just brings in a different approach and personalizes learning a little bit more for students who are maybe interested in exploring other options. I mentioned the advanced placement courses. We have also a new introduction to psychology course And we have 2 new science electives. One of the goals of the district and the STEM department over the past few years is for our students, and we're bringing astronomy and medical biology next year. HBW, we're going to continue to expand the STEM program with our computer science in 7th grade, and we're also bringing in grades 5 through 8 the technology, the education, and the design courses as well, which will build off of what the engineering by design program is that our elementary students are currently exposed to, as you saw a few minutes ago. We're also engaging in a pilot program next year. It's actually going to be, you'll see there, grades 1 through 8, 5 through 8 obviously in the middle school, 1 through 4 in our elementary schools. And this will be centered around providing support and inquiry-based instruction, professional development for our teachers, and an inquiry-based science instruction approach in our classrooms to further support the inquiry process for our students learning and prepare them for high school. And we'll be piloting that in every single school, every elementary school, and also our middle school, and providing professional development for our staff and getting feedback from our students and staff as to the efficacy of the program and the success of it, so that way we can determine our course of action over the next several years with an inquiry approach. In our elementary school, we're also partnering up with the township and VMAC in regards to bringing in a project adventure course that is going to be implemented through our grade 4 physical education curriculum. And we will have our elementary physical education teachers will be trained this summer and then be prepared for that for grade 4 for our students. And then we have future plans to partner with the township and VMAC in order to bring Project Adventure Bound also to the middle school level, and then in the future to the high school level to build collaboration, team building, trust, skills with our students. Here we just have some of the items, and we'll have this PowerPoint that we posted on our website as well for people who cannot be in attendance tonight. They'll be able to see. These are this is the curriculum framework and the type of revisions and new curriculum writing that will take place this summer and throughout the beginning of next year at all 3 grade levels. And many of these revisions and upgrades mirror some of the previous slides, which are the new courses that are being adopted by the Verona Public Schools. And now back to Mrs. Lerner.
This slide, we talk about the continuing programs and continuing services in the Special Services Department. Mrs. Skinner works very diligently to keep students in district, and each budget year she's recommending certain aspects of her department to, if it's increasing time, it's creating new classes to keep students in district. And we've seen this with the preschool program and children graduating out of that program and then going on to the elementary level. There have been classes that have been created to keep those students in district. And now, over the past 3 years, we've been developing programs at the middle school to address the student needs. She's also recommended over the past 3 years that we increase the time with related services, the speech OTPT, and also the behaviorist. So that's definitely addressed a lot of the needs of the children in the district. The next slide is the proposed buildings and grounds project for 2015-16. This information comes from a larger document that Mr. McDevitt puts together on what the plan is for each successive year and what projects he sees that need to be done. Now, if you were to take a look at the buildings and grounds budget as a whole, it's a lot more than what I have listed at the bottom of the screen, which is $357,000, because a lot of it has to do with salaries. It's the maintenance salaries, the custodial salaries, the overtime. What's not in that $203,000 for next year's budget, the supplies are not in there. This is just major initiatives and improvements that need to be done in the school buildings.
None of these are covered in the these are maintenance, annual maintenance.
Right, right. And what I wanted to, it's interesting you brought up that point, because what I wanted to talk about was when Mr. Bellino and Mr. Quattrochi came on the board roughly 12 years ago, what they recognized and what the rest of the board recognized was that the board was not budgeting to all the needs of the district. And one of those things that was certainly not looked at was the buildings and grounds department. And hence, that's why you saw a referendum in 2006. And we saw another one in 2014. That was the ESA program. So, you know, this has been a focus over the past couple of years, that more money has to be put into the buildings and grounds department to maintain our buildings, so that we don't see a referendum, you know, every 3 years, that we just stretch that to 5 years, stretch that to 10 years. One of the things that I wanted to point out that I should have said earlier when I made a joke about the finance committee is that Mr. Quattrochi and Mr. Bellino have been on the board for 12 some odd years, and now this is the 13th budget they've been working on. And that's a scary thought when you think about they worked on the 03-04 budget, and now they're working on 15-16. And they should be credited with the direction this district has gone in, because it's from their guidance that we are, you know, fiscally in a good place, that things have been accomplished over the years, and certainly everything that we're doing around curriculum instruction, that's really only happened in the past couple of years. And that's not to take away from the other 3 board members, but they've been here for quite some time, so kudos to them. Did Mr. Bellino say too long? I don't think Mr. Bellino had grandkids when he got on the board. And Mr. Quattrochi's daughter, I think, was 9 when he came over.
The oldest one.
Yeah, and now she's graduating college, so again, puts things in perspective. The next slide is the shared services with the township, and then also the pooled programs that we're in with other school districts. Now, we are tremendously thankful for the amount of work that the town does for us. Their maintenance staff, everything they do with helping us get the fields ready, the snow removal, the trash removal is a huge expense that they take on, which doesn't impact our budget, which is a tremendous help to us. The rest of the bullets are about pooling our health, dental, workers' comp, and liability insurance. We do the same thing with school and custodial supplies within the school districts, and we also do that with special education transportation. So, you know, if you have a neighbor who has a special needs child, gets picked up by some transportation company, they're moving on to another town to pick up another student, and they're sharing the cost of that trip. Next slide, we are going to talk about the budget facts and constraints. And this one I'll read bullet for bullet, because this is really the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about here tonight. So the tax levy cap of no more than 2% of school budget growth was pursuant to legislation that was passed in 2010. Now, 2011-12 was the last year that the board or the community still voted on a budget. And then every year after that, we have gone over 2%, but that's with cap waivers and banked cap. So this year, the board has elected to use $223,000 of bank cap that's needed because of healthcare costs and the increase in healthcare costs, which is between 8 and 10% every year. But it was also generated by the same thing in previous years. So the reason why we've had this bank cap kind of accumulating is because we didn't need it the past 3 years. So here we are in a year where we feel that it's necessary to use the rest of the bank cap, and then there is, in the 4th bullet, bank cap that we can carry over for next year, and has to be used in next year's budget or it goes away. So the net result in the tax levy increase is 2.7% this year. Last year it was 2.5%. The increase to the homeowner is $117 per home. It's the net difference between the increase in the general fund and then the decrease in the debt service fund because of the bond refinancing that we just did in February. So the average assessed home in Verona is roughly $360,000. So without breaking down every single line item in the budget, we have done this over the past 4 years, and then you'll see on the next slide, it goes, you break it down by one more category, but this is the 4 categories, salaries and benefits, included into one, and you can see that that's a huge number at a $31.8 million budget, that $21.7 million is salaries and benefits. So you can see that when you hear that there's a budget freeze because something's happened, like there's been a special ed student that has moved into town and has to be placed out of district, there's not a lot of wiggle room because of how much is in salaries and benefits. And I should also point out the special education number also includes the salaries in special education. So if our tuition is about, say, $2 million, we have transportation and special ed is about $500,000, there's probably another $4 to $5 million that you can tack on to the first number, and that will give you a salary number in total. The non-discretionary and discretionary, the difference between those two numbers we'll talk about a little bit later in a future slide. So the revenue, you can say, highlighted at 94.3%, is the money that funds our budget is mainly local taxes. This has been something that's been going on for years, and you can bet your bottom dollar that it's never going to change.
Can I, just one thing, one of the things that stood out this is that clearly none of this is unique very much to Verona in terms of the disposition of where, how the budget is funded. It's if you go to any school, just about any school district in the state, in our socio-economic category. If you go to a different socio-economic classified district like Patterson or Newark, they have a very different set of that because they get different degrees of state aid depending on that demographic indicator from the state. That said, an interesting fun fact about New Jersey, the state of New Jersey, is New Jersey is something like number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in the country on 2 ends of the scale. We're like number 1, 2, or 3 in terms of the highest property taxes, right? Even nodding with the heads, right? We're on the same row up there. But we're also the lowest 1, 2, or 3 in the country in the amount of state aid given to schools. Which, if you think about it, sort of makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. But we only really reflect on the one number, with the highest property taxes. And one of the reasons why we're the highest property taxes is because school districts get the lowest state funding assistance from Trenton of the 50 states. So somebody's paying the bills. The bills are about the same. Just we paid out of our income tax, and they give it back to us in aid. We paid out of our property taxes. Unfortunately, that's just the one that anyway.
The other thing, one of the things. Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to point out
That's right. Just one point out. This is in 12 and a half years. This is the first time Joe Molino's been at the podium.
is that a few years ago, just a short time as about 3 or 4 years ago, state aid figure now is 2.9%. We were up between 6 and 7% at one time.
So it's
2011. So we have regressed in that category because of our socioeconomic category. So we're going backwards. So when you hear the governor say there's more money for education in every budget he's passed since he's been governor, hasn't come here. It's going someplace else. The check never got to Verona. And the average state aid percentage across the state is somewhere between 40 and 50%. So if the average is 40 to 50%, we're only getting 2.9%. There's a lot of districts that are getting 70 to 80%. So that's unfortunately the situation that we're in.
The next slide is budget comparison. We compare it to the current budget that we're in right now to the proposed budget next year. And this is where we break out the salaries and benefits on this slide. Now, when This year, the teachers are negotiating for a new contract, and we budget for a certain percentage to cover what that increase is going to be. It's not anything that they've settled yet, can't disclose what that number is, but the change in that 1.5% is a little bit lower than it's been in the past couple of years because we've had a lot of retirements. So we factor that into next year's budget. We take that breakage and make sure that, let's say hypothetically that we have a teacher, and we have a number of them who are retiring and they're making about $100,000. Well, a new teaching staff member, we may hire at $50,000. So then that's why that number comes down. The benefits, another thing I had mentioned earlier, that the budget increases between 8 to 10% every year. The reason why there is a small dollar change is because next year is the final year in that chart that Christy put out. It was a 4-year phase-in of the staff contribution for benefits. So next year is the final year, and it's about $200,000 each year. Each year of that chart, the reimbursement to the board was about a $200,000 increase. So what we were talking about in the Finance Committee tonight is that the following budget year, 16-17, we're going to be going back to possibly getting budget waivers for the benefits increase. Because now we're going to go back to an 8 to 10% increase.
Yeah, so one of the things I think we should discuss as a board, and because it's part of the negotiation, we probably should discuss the details of it in confidential. And I think you're going to get to it on the next page, but in that, we have a, in that benefits line, there's a great unknown that I think is going to hit us in 17, 18, that we're trying to plan for now. Unfortunately, it's based on rulings and law that are very obscure and unclear. It has to do with Obamacare, the Obamacare Cadillac tax. And by the best forecast that we have, our health care plans, the Obamacare healthcare Cadillac tax is based on the amount of the premium. It has no regard for what the out-of-pocket is for the district. So the fact that the staff is contributing about 30% of the cost of the premium is not regarded. If you look at just what the total premium is, inclusive of any FSA money and other savings plans. You put that together, the Verona School District, our healthcare plan is modest compared to some others, will be, like most municipalities and any other public workers' healthcare plans, will be over the tax limit. If that were to happen to us, we assume a 10% increase in healthcare each year, which we run somewhere between 9 and 12% a year, so use 10%. In 17, 18 year, it looks like we may be facing about a $280,000, $290,000 a year tax that we have no wherewithal to pay. So, but that's not, we look at that and say, okay, that sounds pretty bad. But if that were to happen, and I don't want to get over our skis and be holding them out, but there's a lot of places in the country that have a lot of business. It's at the municipal level, at the school district level, the state level. So my best guess is that as that date comes closer, they're going to clarify what those rules are, maybe another way, maybe they're going to change them now. Who knows? But as that number grows on healthcare, it is a ticking time bomb. And kudos to our staff in Verona. The last 2 contracts, they have agreed to structural changes to the plan to keep the premium growth low. And even with those, I think in the last 2 contracts, it's something close to $205,000 a year in premium reductions. It would still be over that Cadillac tax. I can get the board more detail what that looks like, but it's somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 in tax.
And like Mr. Quattrochi said, we'll see the numbers in the next slide. The next line item is special education, and again, that $7 million number in the 15-16 column is inclusive of salaries, tuition, transportation, and special education supplies in the classroom. So what's built into that increase is a negotiated budget amount for the next contract settlement. There were 3 students who were placed out of district last year, so we have to budget, of course, for that increase next year, and then all the general increases in tuition on top of, there was about a 5% increase in the transportation for next year. The non-discretionary professional development, curriculum writing, custodial, and maintenance supplies, you'll see has gone down 81,000. It's basically stayed flat because that $80,000 was the amount of money that we budgeted for the draft. So we didn't need that for the discretionary spending is all the regular classroom spending and co-curricular supplies, including athletics. And as you can see here, the nice thing is that it has increased by 6%. So more dollars are being put towards the students and not, not things like benefits.
That's still, sorry to interrupt you, but that's still about $600,000 a year less than what we spent also.
Okay, so the next slide is sort of eye-opening because right now the cost of our benefit plans for, as you can see, the family plan is almost $27,000. So when Mr. Quattrochi just spoke about the 17-18 budget, if you tack on 10% to that number plus another 10% the following year, then you're over $30,000 for a family plan. So there are people in this district that are in fact contributing $8, $9, and $10,000 towards their benefits. So when you hear that the teachers don't pay their fair share, they pay it now. That may have been the case 4 years ago, but they are paying their fair share now. It is comparable if you talk to people in the public sector, or the private sector, I should say, they will tell you the same thing. It's anywhere between $600 and $800 a month. So the total employee contribution for every person in this district who receives benefits is $1 million. Now that's the number I was talking about earlier that's going to stay flat unless the board decides to increase the reimbursement to the board or decrease it. But as far as we see it for 15-16, the number's going to be $1 million. You can never predict what 16-17 is going to be or any budget after that, but this is where we stand right now. So we have 190 staff members that carry benefits at approximately $3.2 million. 61 staff members opt out, and the cost to the board is $292,000. Now, if you're a family plan, you are reimbursed $5,000 if you opt out, and then the other plans are 25% of whatever the cost is, the current cost. So it's 25% of those numbers in the first bullet. Now, I suspect, and this is just looking at a crystal ball, is that there may be more staff members next year that opt out. I can't budget for that, but you would think with staff members who are going to that year 4 on that chart, who are going to be paying 35% of the benefits, may look at the fact that both their husband and wife have benefits. And it only makes sense to do it because then if you're being given $5,000 to opt out, but yet it's costing you $8,000, really the swing is $13,000. And I'm going to have some meetings with the staff in the next month or two to explain that. We also have an FSA program, and you'd be surprised that there are very few staff members who take the FSA, and I try to explain to them it's your own savings account. It's tax-free money. It goes into what's called a savings account, and then you draw on it for any of those things that insurance doesn't cover, co-pays when you go to the pharmacy. So I am going to have meetings and try to explain that to people because it's their money. And like Mr. Quattrochi said, the future is bleak when it comes to benefits. Social Security, pension, and unemployment costs are approximately $1 million. Workman's compensation insurance is approximately $200,000, and you see the board liability and property insurance plus approximately $175,000. Now, we won't hear from them for the next couple of slides.
So this slide here gives a little bit more detail as to what some of the topics or items are. As Mrs. Nardino referenced in slide 12, the non-discretionary spending versus the discretionary spending. You see there on the right-hand side, health supplies, guidance supplies, classroom supplies. This will come up again in the upcoming slide. This may be a little hard to see from where you're sitting. But essentially what you have there in the left-hand column of school districts, those are our comparable districts, our comp districts that we compare ourselves to based on two key factors, the size of the district and the socioeconomic status. And we use that as a good benchmark to see how we're doing, not only financially, but also academically, and also then tying the two together, right? So at the bottom, you'll see a number next to, Verona's all the way last row at the bottom, and you'll see a number next to each of the columns. So first column there is on total spending per pupil, and it says that Verona's total spending per pupil is $16,219. And next to that it says 12. So out of the 12 schools, we are 12th in spending. So that means that we're really stretching the dollar. So comparable to all of the other districts, we're spending the least per pupil. And that's important to know because then you'll be able to take a look at how Verona is doing in providing services and learning experiences for our students. And you'll see that comparable to these districts, we're doing extremely well and being very fiscally responsible with the funding and where the money goes. And that's, as Mrs. Nardino said, is a testament to the work that's been going on in Verona for the past 12 years in regards to making sure that the money goes to the right places to support student learning. That next column there on classroom supplies, we're not 12th. That's a good thing. We're 5th, so we're towards the top. And the reason that's a good thing is that that money is being diverted into the classroom, into the teacher's hands, which ultimately gets into the student's hands. So that's where the money is being devoted. And then when you take a look at extracurriculars, we're 12th in that category in spending. And then in the average property taxes all the way on the right, you'll see that we are 4th in our in taxes. So we are, that should be 8?
It should be 9. That should be 9.
8 or 9?
I think even the question surprises.
Is that backwards then?
Yeah, that was backwards.
Okay.
That should be on.
So overall, when you take a look at this and you see how we're doing academically and financially, Verona's in a really good place. And then the last slide that we have in the presentation is just a snapshot of this year so far. There are many other schools that our students have been accepted into. And I think we probably have somewhere around 30 schools that are here that represent many of our students that have been accepted so far in the 2015 class. The reason we don't have all of the schools up here yet is because our seniors self-report in June once they've actually made their acceptance and submitted it with their deposit to the university. And they will meet with the guidance counselor, let them know what schools they have been accepted to and which one they're going to be enrolling in. And that's a good snapshot for us to see representative of the entire senior class where our students have been accepted and then where they'll be attending. So you can expect a more comprehensive list every year. Verona High School publishes that and then we share that with the community.
Okay, so I just wanted to thank the administration, certainly the teaching staff for all their help with putting the budget together, the finance committee, the rest of the board members. It's a long process, and you know, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, so I just wanted to thank everybody for that. The presentation is going to be posted on the website tomorrow morning. We'll make the corrections that we found tonight. And if anybody has any questions right now, I'll entertain them. If not, you can email me. You can find my email address on the website. You can give a call. On budget kinds of things, I don't need an Oprah request form. You know, we're very transparent here. So if you have a question, call me, email me, and we'll get you the answer. So anybody have any questions?
You did the budget a long time ago. I was just curious, because one of the items on there was renovating the wood shop at HBW. Which happened first? Did the teacher design and decide to go to the STEM program and not have wood shop anymore? Or did you decide to change the wood shop and then
It was the teacher decided to retire, and then from there, taking that space and then looking at this as an opportunity to expand and bring in more engineering classes for our students. So now we're actually in the process of taking a look at some grant opportunities that are out there, to see if we can engage some of the grant funding in order to renovate the lab, and if we can, then be able to allocate some of our resources in order to upgrade the lab and be able to have that provided for the necessary instruction for our students.
a lot of parents talk about the value in having that hands-on woodshop experience and people ready.
So I think what's nice to know about that is that as the economy and as learning evolves, that is something to keep in mind, and then also that the skills that students learn in the woodshop in that class, a lot of those things are still going to be incorporated from an engineering perspective. So students will still be building, they'll just be building and tying it in with science and technology and engineering design process.
Will they still be building with wood?
No, they won't be building with wood. They'll be building with other types of items and materials as we develop the curriculum this summer. They'll be developing a lot of projects around the engineering by design and STEM initiatives. But it won't be with woodshop. Yeah, and what we have found as well is from our students who've been in a lot of the engineering classes, they've really taken to that class as well. So there are going to be a lot of those components from what they learned and how they learned in the woodshop, and those practical learning experiences are going to be in the engineering piece. So I think that what we'll find is that the students are going to really take well, as they have, to the engineering courses that we've brought into HBW and VHS in the elementary schools.
Why not have both? Is that a budget issue?
You know what, if I could just interrupt you for 1 second, because I think this is probably like public comment, so we can go back and forth at that point, okay? Maybe if we could just get more to the numbers. But certainly come up later.
Yeah. I just have one question. On the previous one or two slides earlier, I heard a comment, something to the effect that Verona's in a good place academically as it relates to property taxes, something like that, and I missed it. I do want to hear it again. I believe it was on this slide, and someone mentioned something to that.
I think what the issue was, yeah, I think what he was reflecting was this list of what we call comparable districts is a list that we use for all kinds of comparisons to other places. Education is not a competition, but you have to sort of evaluate what others are doing and how they're doing to determine whether you're doing well or not, and the rest of it. These districts are the 12 districts that are the same socioeconomic category as defined by the state. So that allows us to get financial data that's publicly available, that's apples to apples sort of data. They are all K-12 districts, so it eliminates comparing some of the economics in Verona versus maybe a place like Essex Fells right next door that only goes K-6 or K-8. They are in Essex County and surrounding counties, so they're just out parts of the state that have different economic economies. And they are all in the 1,800 to 3,500 student population category, and that gives us all kinds of other information on student performance as well as financials. If you take those four characteristics, you end up with 12 districts, plus Verona's one of them. This is a subset of a lot of data that we pulled together. Of course, again, it's all public data. And what this says is that first column, the per pupil spending, we're the lowest spending as published of the field of 12, 5 to 60,000. Mr. Denisio's comment was it's an important way to look at it when you break down the finances to say what kind of education are we able to provide, what challenges do we have to face, and how are we solving them, given that we're spending a lot less per student than everybody else is in that field. That's all the tax means. The last column on the property taxes, we're ninth in the property taxes. We list the property taxes because it's always a topic of the forefront of folks' head, but there's a lot of variables that go into that property tax. So, for example, a lot of those places are not in Essex County, so that's the total average property tax for a home in any of those towns. But some of them are in Berkeley County, some of them are in Essex, some of them are in Morris. Yeah, exactly. So you get some variables. Some of them, like Ramsey has lots of a very large business. Malawa is a very large business district. That's why the property taxes are home and everybody less, etc. But again, it's just indicative.
Right. And I think it's always been, historically, Verona has always been very, I don't want to use the word frugal, but we've used a little bit of money that we have, we've used it well.
But I think we've been very, very frugal. I think we've been,
we've kind of always been faced with this challenge and
I think we've been
delivered.
Yeah, I think personally, can you speak, I think we've been, over the decades, we've been highly biased to being excessively frugal. And what I mean by excessively frugal is if you go back in our history, there was a lot of years where we were very, very low change to the budget. Taxes go up every year, and all of them. First to raise my hand and say, I wish I didn't have to have it. I'm with that. However, you can see the growth pattern is just nowhere near some of those places. And that's per student, right? We have 2,250 students. So if you were to take, Verona, talk, I don't know how the page, if you had, Verona's at 16, I'm going to round it, right, $16,000. And you take it and compare it to a place like Mawa, just a few lines up, right, 21,000, that's $5,000 per year of a difference, times 2,250 students. So take $5,000 times 2,000, right, that's over $10 million per year, every year of spending. So in 5 years, that's $50 million more they're spending every year. It's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So it adds up very, very quickly when you look at it from that perspective.
And we're doing this all with only getting 2.9% from the state.
We only get a little over 800,000 in state aid, and back in 2011 was the year. We were given 1.4 million. It was cut to 70,000, and now we're back up to a little over
Right. So the
800,000.
other earlier you said that sort of rough numbers rounds out to like
Yeah,
2.9% from the state.
given the size of our budget, right, that's right.
Any other questions?
In terms of the insurance that you highlighted, might be what looks like the town council. It was pretty spot on about $2,000 as well. I think the miss though is that in the private sector, they've changed insurance dramatically. If you work for a U.S. large big company, you have to be deductible before you get any kind of insurance. When you go to the doctor and it costs $125, you pay $125. Then when you get $1,200, it takes you $20. What they do, which you highlighted as well, is a health savings account. Maybe we can have a combination where the township pays, say, $700 for health care to offset the cost of that, and not so much that the teachers have to pay more for their insurance, pay more to it, but to bring down the actual CAD. Those days of $10 co-pays,
Yeah.
$10 co-pays are over, unfortunately. So keep their benefits in terms of intact, maybe subsidize it with something in their healthcare savings account. So you put $700, we'll put $700, that takes the deductible away, and then we bring down the cost by saying, hey, listen, you're only going to pay $650 a month now, but you're not going to pay $5 copay. Unfortunately, you want 5%.
No, Joe, you make a good point about that. And these are all the things that we've been looking at. And one of the things that is difficult for us as a school district is we are in a pooled plan. It's a benefit that we're in a pooled plan for health insurance, but when you want to get your experience to then shop the market to see if you can find, you have to find the same product, it has to be the same or better, you're not able to get quotes from these other insurance companies because they don't know what's going on with your staff. So, you may get a company who comes in and says, all right, well, we don't need to look at your experience, but we're going to give you a 4% increase for next year. No guarantee on the second year. Some may guarantee year 2, but they'll definitely not guarantee year 3.
You also have the negative aspect that you not just in Verona, but also statewide. So you may not have to do it.
A little bit different than that, Joe. It needs to go off there. We have to do it. So any change. So you're right on everything that you said. We're all in agreement. The sorts of plans that you're describing are the plans that we have on the table right now. The Verona Teachers Association has to ratify that sort of a change to the plan. That's a tough thing to do because the bias is I don't say the bias, but insurance is sort of like, it's almost like talking about making your will. It's a very uncomfortable thing for people to change, right? In the private sector, like experiences that you or I would have, then you just find out. I found out when I went to the doctor, he was like, where's your check? What are you talking about? So it's a little bit different than that. We have to do it sort of with the approval of the union. However, one of the things that I mentioned before, the past couple of years, what we changed with the agreement of the union was we reduced the number of plans and we brought the cost down. We have one plan, one size fits all. Now we're trying to go the other way. Now we're saying, can we put in 2 or 3 other alternate plans one version, maybe this sort of thing you described. And the insurance company has agreed to let the staff opt in or opt out from one plan to the other, and their premium will be adjusted accordingly, right? So it allows us to bend the curve on what that growth looks like, because you have every individual person's individual insurance needs to be very, very different, right? So that's on the document. In 2017, it will kick in at $28,500. We're already at it. The next increase puts us over that tax. So it's going to continue to be a problem. And the other thing too that we're talking about doing is petitioning the state. We're bound to, so you see the number, $26,000 in premium for the coverage. If we wanted to incentivize staff to opt out, staff can opt out and go get their own insurance. And given how much is coming out of their payroll now to pay for this, it could be desirable. We'll pay you to opt out. The state, in their infinite wisdom, put a limit on how much we can incentivize an employee of ours to opt out of the plan that we provide. So that it's capped at $5,000. So think about the net. To incentivize someone to walk away from a $26,000 or $30,000 bill, I'm limited to incentivize them to $5,000. It doesn't bite me, right? So the petition to the state is, what if we want to give them 20? We would save 30, pay them 20, and net save 10. But if I don't incentivize them the right way, they'll just say it's not worth my time, I'll just, right? Then I'm paying 30. Well, then we're paying 30. So the rules have to change, because the rules are not up to date with what this map looks like for the last couple of years.
But Joe, you make a very good point about the different deductible limits, the co-pays, because those other plans that we are looking at are very high deductibles. So someone who is typically healthy may choose that plan because whatever they're contributing is going to be a lot less. The other thing that I have done, which hasn't always happened in the past, but with the change in the Affordable Health Care Act, because individuals can be carried on their family's plan or their mother and father's plan until age 26. Any new staff members, I've started to meet with them to explain to them, if you have other siblings at home that are younger than you, and your parents still have to carry a family plan, you may want to talk to your parents about you not going on health benefits. Yeah, I don't ask what their situation is, how old they are. I don't ask anything. This speech goes out to everyone, just so people are aware that your parents still have to carry the family plan. So if you don't, we'll give you a check for $5,000 to opt out. So, any other questions? Okay, again, thank you very much for your time, and we'll have this posted to the website. Any questions, please contact me.
All right, thank you very much. Let's do superintendent's report.
A brief one tonight. Covered a lot of things this evening with a couple of presentations, but just a brief update. The FDU Multi-Sensory Work Bellingham program, the deadline for that is this week, and we, once again, as I mentioned earlier, have a large amount of interest in that program. The Google Teacher Academy, the deadline is upcoming for the next several weeks, and we only have 16 spots available for cohort 1 for the 2015-16 school year. That's going to provide professional development for our teachers in order to infuse technology into the everyday classrooms at all of our schools. And so far we have 25 applicants, and we have a selection process that will be coming up with the committee in the next couple of weeks. So that's very exciting. And then every year we'll incorporate at least an additional 16 teachers into the professional development program, and also enable for our teachers to collaborate with one another and turnkey training, so that way we can get the instructional practices into the classroom quicker. Most recently, we just had a few days ago, the Washington Post annually posts a list of the most challenging high schools in the nation. They review a list of 22,000 high schools, and they only rank the top 2,300 as most challenging out of those 22,000. Very happy to report once again, Verona High School is in the top 5%. That just came in at number 928, and that's something to be extremely proud of, and continuing with the success that we had at the high school, and challenging and rigorous coursework, for our students in increasing the strength of schedule, which is a testament to all of the work that's been done over the past great number of years here. And then last but not least, this evening we have a resolution for a resignation from our Lanning Avenue School Principal, Julie DiGiacomo. We accept that resignation this evening with regret. I'm very happy to say Mrs. DiGiacomo over the past 2 years has been instrumental in making some significant contributions with the Lanning Avenue parents and the Lanning Avenue staff. She's contributed greatly to our instructional program, especially around the reading workshop model in K-4. She has significantly improved the building improvements. As you walk through the hallway, it's very evident and you can see all of the cheeriness in the hallways and in the classrooms, and she's worked very closely with parents and staff on that and been very focused on her school culture there. It's been a pleasure working with her, and we wish her the best of luck in her future endeavors. And that's all for the superintendent report.
We have one committee for finance, or that? Yeah, okay, right. So can we put on our next confidential, and I'll send the board a sort of a synopsis of it, so you can have some kind of background about some of the healthcare considerations with the contract negotiation process. We are, as the units and I meeting with the Teachers Association on Monday. It's coming Monday. Yeah, so, and I have a couple messages out to Tony Charbel and so forth. There are a couple of things that we should be cognizant of, and we should not go too far down that without concern with the verification. Okay, so let's do resolutions.
I had one discussion item that I want to bring up. I had the privileges, I forgot to mention this the last board event meeting, that on a couple of weeks ago prior to the last, right after the last board meeting, I was able to go to the Aladdin show at HBW, and it was very, very impressive. Barb Piercy and the whole staff there have done a great job with the kids to present a great show. It was very, very impressive. So we have a lot of talent in Verona, and next time there's another show out there, I definitely recommend going out there to see it. So again, great show. And I know you had a jazz concert that was you attended.
I was in the gym. That was a.
Oh yeah, attended the jazz concert. School jazz concert. I wasn't able to attend, but I heard that was a great show too.
So, yeah, and there's some YouTube out there from one parent, so students just did it again, but just awesome. You kind of walk out of the room with the jaw so around the chest, and amazing what they can do.
Throw out there too that the high school Euro Challenge team is going to, they made it to the next level, and they're traveling to New York Federal Reserve to compete in national competition.
That's this
I
week?
kind of strong arm my way to be a chaperone on that, so I'm looking forward to that. That's what they said. Thursday. Yeah, so shout out to them. Now, I just have a real quick question. What is this speech arts course?
Speech arts course is will satisfy the English requirement, and that's a public speaking course for our seniors.
Since I didn't say Frank Banner is a public speaking course now, so is it going to replace or in addition to?
So there are a number of students that never take public speaking, so we have that as an elective, but we thought that by incorporating this class in the senior year would offer more of an incentive for a skill that everyone feels that our students greatly benefit from, and being able to expand that to a broader audience. So it will have a dual purpose now, being able to satisfy that English requirement and give students a different experience and different skill set.
Okay, resolved that the board approve resolutions number 1 through number 15.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Moreno, seconded by Mr. Day. Any discussion?
Just acknowledge great environment. I had her as a teacher, and really just extraordinary person, let alone teacher. And in all honesty, the skill she taught me at HW, I still use today. It's just, you know, you sow good seeds early on, the era of teachers. You know, I know eventually they retire and eventually people move on, but it is a real loss. And there'll be some big shoes to fill. So, yeah. She's a lot that kids would really. I want to echo too. Julie's done a lot for our district in a short period of time. And, you know, I had an opportunity actually to visit the school, Lanny, and she took me on a tour around the school to show some of the improvements that they've made. And one of the most extraordinary things she has done is rally the community and parents around Lanny Avenue School. And I know it sounds small what I'm about to say, but it's actually a very big difference. If you just walk into the closets at HEW, I mean, they're unbelievable. She's repurposed some of them for instructional use and organizing them in a way that benefits students, teachers, and parents. I know it sounds kind of odd to talk about closets, but it shows that she has not neglected one part of that building. And if she's taking care of every inch of the building in that capacity, imagine what she's doing with our kids. So I think it's really been, you know, a good 2 years. I know a good 2 years with her here. And we have a couple of donations here too. Just want to broadly acknowledge that it's always appreciated, all the goodwill and generosity given to our district. Thank you.
I also would like to wish Mr. Giacomo success in the future. I had the privilege of serving with her on the Roseland board, and I was interim business administrator in Roseland. She was a board member there. I can attest to her dedication to field of education, and I'd like to thank her for her service here and wish her much success in the future. And we're extremely for her extreme effort here in the 2 years that she served with us.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Fresky?
Yes.
Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Galino?
Yes.
Mr. Quattrochi?
I abstain on number 10 and aye on the rest. Okay. We'll open up to public comment or questions. None? No?
The old 15 Howard Street. First, I'd like to say, after many years of me standing up here and writing about pay to play, I'm glad to hear we're in a mode where we're phasing it out so that all the students will be on the same ballpark, in the same ballpark. Second thing, which I'm surprised to hear about, and I'm not really prepared to speak about it tonight, is to hear that they're basically ending the woodworking program at the middle school. I can assure you I will be back. I want to just say in general, I know we have a great record of our students going on to college, but we are here to educate and provide for all of our students. I can just tell you that in this past week, I had one of my former students come to do some plumbing work at my house. And there's only one way for kids to find out if they have those kinds of interests and abilities. And believe me, they will earn a wonderful financial living off of these kinds of jobs. And I was disappointed to hear, I am not totally up on STEM, but I guarantee you in the weeks coming up, I will be back. And I will find out about the STEM program. I understand in general that it is a type of program that, while it challenges your thinking, it works a lot more with computers, sometimes with Legos and things like that. But they're not working with tools and machines and learning these hand skills. And I must admit, I'm a bit prejudiced, having taught the district for 18 years, being in charge of industrial arts. I still believe that there's a place for that in the schools, and we have to use that for all of our students, awakening them to some of the skills and abilities and interests that they have. So you'll see me back again about.
Well, why don't you call Glenn Stevenson, who's the supervisor for this, and why don't you think if you can spare us? I'm sure you can. And we can talk about it. The whole wood shop in the last decade has evolved to tech ed. So it's no longer wood shop, it's actually tech ed. So it's not wood shop as you might remember teaching. It's evolved
think that still has a place. It doesn't have to be as big a place as it was in the past, but I still think it has a place in our curriculum.
And I agree with you, and that's why the curriculum that will be developed has those components built into it. Because the engineering process, when we teach students the design process, they have to go through the continuous design loop. And then they have to draft their ideas, collaborate, and then be able to actually build a product, test their product, and then be able to make sure that it functions appropriately with the initial problem and the solution was to begin with. So I will put Mr. Stevenson, the STEM supervisor, in touch with you at the end of this meeting. If you want to give me your phone number, or I can give you this phone number, and we can set something up.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I'll piggyback off of what Mr. Beal said. Budget at home is a duck, and she loved it, and a basketball thing about. And there's nothing like holding that piece of wood in your hand that you created and being so proud of it. And the only thing she did was she pushed on the spoon, the ball went into the basketball hoop. But, you know, maybe something there is not going to be academically successful. Maybe we'll learn something there, like you said, from your hand to make something, and it'll spark something, and then they'll realize they have a talent in something that maybe is the academics. But, you know, you already changed, you put the thing in, you're changing wood shop, taking out the material that you use to build the wood product,
But
is that right?
that's tech ed. What you just
Tech ed,
described
right.
that your daughter built was a catapult. So there was a design process around that, which is still going to be in this new class.
But why take away that wooden product that she loves so much?
Because there are going to be other products that students will be able to work with.
So for example, 3D printing.
But what was wrong with having those wooden products?
There's nothing wrong with them. It's just an advancement of the types of materials that engineers in this day and age use. So,
But I was with the engineer,
That's right. But it's all about teaching the thinking skills that are applicable to other areas of discipline and being able to be able to expand that. So that design process is really important, and we're going to further enrich it. So there are a lot of qualities and characteristics that are in the current tech ed program. Those valuable skills will still be transferred over into this new technology, engineering, and design class, and then we further enrich them out of that.
I know it's going home, it wouldn't that next year. But anyway, the ELA, we had talked about not continuing the test, and I counted how many Pearson tests my daughter took that were specifically teaching her that model of writing, and there were 14 assessments she had this year, and they counted toward a 3. And one part I really don't like about it is there's a part A of the question where you find the main idea. The part B is supporting what supports that idea. And if you get the first part wrong, you get the second part wrong, it automatically drops you down to 181. So I hope that they can look at that and maybe have more teacher input into how these things are scored that's a little more fair for the kids. And I would rather see teacher-generated assessments over these Pearson workbook assessments. And I understand your point about familiarizing them. The 14 times during the course of the year for a grade, a significant part of one grade is more than just familiarizing. It's to me teaching to the best. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in Sergio's point. My heart hurts because this is the first I found out that the tech ed is going to switch too. I have 3 of those ducks, 3 of those catapults, 3 of the hungry hippos, and what they do at the high school, and I'm hoping that's not going to change, is Jeremy Smith's class, because he is such a talented furniture maker, and he's doing amazing things with that. So is that
class is staying in high school. That's not going anywhere.
what is that class?
We have woodshop classes at the high school level as well. We have advanced woodworking at the high school, so we have those courses that are offered, and that will remain intact.
And just for your future reference, the gentleman who teaches it is used to be a custom furniture maker, and the things that they produce in there. I think the art show comes up in May, and if you have an opportunity, and they have on display there, it's fantastic.
He was also in an art exhibition on the West Coast in September, and he was recognized for his beautiful woodworking and the talent that we have there. So, a true talent here at the high school. So that class will remain.
What's the advanced program to have like an introductory?
There are several
Yeah,
levels
there.
advanced
You take
to
all
get
4
there.
years and you do different things
Oh.
and you're a student college.
Shannon O'Donnell, 12 Sutton Place. Kind of returning to the teaching to the test issue, which is an important one for me. We found this on the curriculum on our website in the, from the curriculum, where in the 5th grade, they're setting aside 10 weeks to test prep. So, well, here it is. And how is that not teaching to the test? I personally have experience with my daughter in, this is for English language arts. My daughter in the 6th grade, she came home with, she was taught 2 Pearson tests, and I had a second meeting with Charlie Miller to discuss these issues. And he and I, and please forgive me, I forget the woman who also was a part of the...
Dr. Gonji.
Yes, thank you. Couldn't remember her name. She was there as well. And everyone was, you know, it was quite a pleasant meeting with plenty of robust discussion. And we went around in circles. And when we finished our circular conversation, Charlie did say that, yes, this was teaching to a test and that it should not be going on. He said that he would get back to me, and it's been a month. So then when we found this, of course it just really stood out. This is teaching to a test. And I also want to know, tell me, what is the difference between test writing and real writing? These are essential questions based on this curriculum that are being asked. And I must tell you, I know my children, they're really, you know, they're very traditional learners. They've done a wonderful job in school, and they continue to. This would be incredibly confusing to them. Why should they write one way for a test in order to write another way for real writing? So I would like some insight into this.
So I think you bring up some very good points. Can you pinpoint directly where, can you, after the meeting, tell me where this was, so that way I
Sure,
can follow the progress?
it's on the curriculum website.
It's on the curriculum
Yes, on
website?
our website.
Can I have?
Of course you can. I have copies for others as well, if anyone else is curious.
Sure. So I will go back and I'll talk to Charlie Miller about this, but.
And who would approve this? Who approves? Like, this has to go to the parents.
All of our curriculum documents are approved
Yeah, by who?
by the Board of Education.
Okay, so this is news?
And we have this that goes through the education committee, and we review it and we discuss it. So I'll go back and I can discuss this with Charlie Miller and with Dr. Gangia to get a little bit more color as to what this is all about, because good writing should just be
Good writing. And it should be a skill that can be transferred. I think there's a line there about, like, what does it say here? It says, transfer goals.
Yeah, that's the.
Right, so, I mean, when you learn how to write, it doesn't matter whether you're writing limitations for living writing or, you don't have to write.
Can I make one comment, actually?
Please,
just,
yes.
Just because actually this, it may have pulled this from resources on, but I've actually used this exact essential question in my classroom when I was teaching. And I can't speak well how I used it in Verona, but the way I used it in my classroom was, when you get to the test, they ask you to outline it in a particular way. And good writing is just good writing, right? So when you get to that test, don't think, well, now is my introductory sentence, then this might be this happens. Just follow the structure we used all year. And even sometimes that they lay it out on the standardized tests and how the pages are laid out as well, you can use your children. So, like I said, I use that question myself to go from, this is the format, this is how it's broken out, and copy and paste it, and cut everything, and make it look like it's supposed to be, to just transition that into, this is what a composition looks like. So this is what a composition looks like across different subjects that we are using. So, but so I'm not saying that's how it is in Verona. I've seen this same question before,
Well,
not trying to argue or anything.
No, I don't feel,
Yeah.
I'm not interpreting it that way, but it's very pure, I just don't understand. Test writing and real writing. That's,
Yeah, so,
that's odd.
here's-
Okay, so then moving, so then.
here's what we don't do. What we don't do in Verona is we don't teach the test.
I'm sorry.
If we,
why not?
let me finish. If we taught to the test, every kid in Verona would be scoring an 1800 on the SAT. Because we would teach to the SAT. And every kid in Verona would score a 32 on the ACT because we would teach to the ACT. And every kid in Verona would score, whatever the 220 on the ASK when we had it, because we would be teaching to the ASK. We don't do that. What this is an attempt in our first year of PAR to acclimate students to how the essay portion of the PAR works. And good writing is good writing is good writing. You're 100% right about that. But the way the PAR essay questions are posed is different than how we would normally teach in the classroom. More free-form. There's certain structures in the follow.
So how is this not teaching to the test? You are altering how you're teaching children how to write.
So let me flip it around.
Okay.
Let's say that on the test, we know that certain types of fractional math is going to be tested. So we decide to teach kids that fractional math. Is that teaching to the test? Must be, because we're teaching something that's going to be on the test so that they're ready for the test. Right?
Well, I think that if you,
right.
no, please. If you were to say you're giving over 1 week to that approach in a good faith, exposing the students to what they're going
No,
to be
because
facing.
then the following
This
week,
is 10 weeks.
it's over the course of 10 weeks, not 10 weeks. But why do we do this? Your point is well made. We do not teach the test. So if we're spending an inordinate amount of time in a brand new curriculum, doing something that we really don't need to be doing, we should be doing something else at that time. We're all aligned on the same thing. And we'll adjust it. We'll change it. We'll fix it. We'll correct it. We'll not do it anymore. But I got to tell you, I just put 2 kids, and I had another one coming through. The world that they're going to hit in high school is full of standardized tests. It just is. And whether it's the ALEKS test that the kids take to get placed once they get into a college, whether it's the SAT or the ACT to get into college, whether it's the AP exam when they complete an AP course, those are all standard tests. In order to prepare the students for what's going to be on the test, we have to cover all the material that's going to be on that test.
In the 5th grade for college?
I'm not talking about college. I'm certainly not telling you that the kid needs to do this and that's be ready for the ACT. That's the issue. What I'm saying is that there are certain elements of the PAR that, as you know, are new to all of us. I don't know that anyone here has ever raised their hand and told you we are huge fans of PAR.
We'll go and do that quietly.
No, I've said it publicly. I think
Yes,
it's going to
you
go.
have. You certainly
I got
have.
the microphone, I got the board president's plaque, I got a 12-week certificate on the wall at home. I'm speaking for the board. There is no one here that is saying, this is a terrific idea. Yahoo, we can't believe the day has finally come. It's the opposite. It is a huge disruption. It is a huge infraction on how we believe we want to progress our curriculum for students. But it's something that we're obligated to do. And when we have these kinds of situations, thank you for bringing them up. Take care of it. We'll change it.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention to it. And I would strongly encourage everyone on the board that if they are holding opinions in opposition to PART as the board member John does, we'd love to hear from you.
What President speaks with
So I'll say it again because we've said it a number of times before. Through our, we have 3 different consortiums that are on the board. We have statewide. We have consortiums through the superintendent's roundtable, and we have for the parental advocacy, and we have as individuals in various ways spoken to and collaborated with legislators. That's you see the changes coming down from Trent.
That didn't happen. That didn't happen because people kept their opinions to themselves. People in positions of influence and leadership. That happened because people in positions of leadership and influence said, I do not agree with what's happening with education, and I'm going to raise my voice against it.
We've been talking about it here since 2012. So, right.
Well, I think it might be really curious, and this might be just the perfect ask everyone, what's your opinion on park? We
The
certainly know yours, John.
The opinion of we talked to everybody about that.
Okay.
The opinion of the board
Okay.
is that this is not something that has been a constructive experience for students of Verona, nor for the staff, nor for the Board of Education and administrators that are obligated to carry it out. We are trying the best we can to accommodate for every time that you come up here and advocate the ills and the downsides of park. I get another 5 emails from parents saying, please stop it, I want my kid tested. So there are, if you want an
They
opinion,
said it's too late.
please stop the naysaying, my kid needs got to be tested. We get, I'm telling, yes, absolutely, yes, yes.
I would love that they would come and support put voice to their position.
Well, to be honest with you, I get an email and the board sees them, well, people communicate in different ways. I don't pass judgment on how anyone chooses to communicate, but I can tell you that it's not a one-sided a challenge. And what we are trying to do over and again is accommodate as many people as possible while still maintaining the responsibilities of what we need to do. Right? We've been changing this curriculum since 2011, 2012. Every year we've been shifting it and changing it in order to be ready for what Park has been directed. And we've been very bold. We went through 2 curriculum directors, 2.5 superintendents have stood up here and saying the pace of change that we're being forced to deal with is not reasonable. We've been very vocal. I mean, some of the folks, Mr. Yola, to point to you out because you've been here year after year, when we go through the presentation material on what we're trying to change and the challenges we're changing it, and the cost associated with it is astronomical.
I just wanted to check one thing, because I didn't get to say it before, and it was just kind of closure to this essential question. An essential question doesn't have a definitive answer to it. It's more of an ongoing discussion and dialogue that happens throughout the evening that you're studying. So, at least for my classroom, that would happen. We jigsaw it, we'd have different stations set up, and we would answer that essential question on a large post-it board piece of paper. The outcome of this essential question for my children in my classroom, where I tried to steer them towards or get them to an end result on, would be to say just what you're saying, that there isn't a difference, essentially, right? The structure might be different, expectation might be a little bit different, but good writing is good writing. So the purpose of the essential question isn't to say the only answer is A, but to have a constructive dialogue around exactly what you're bringing up today. And I would say, even taking it as far as to have pros and cons and come up and say exactly what you're saying, it shouldn't be different. And someone can say, no, it should be different. And that's an essential question.
I think that the point that Ms. O'Donnell was making, and this strikes me, is the perception that there's an inordinate amount of time being spent away from the academic curriculum that is normally intended and being diverted into preparatory type work, no matter how you explain it. There's nothing you can say tonight without the supervisory team here to explain it all on how it's being run. It's going to satisfy the question.
I got that. Just trying to clarify that this question here, the whole purpose of the question is
Your full balance over the clock is 10 weeks of testing.
for
First time.
no, I get that, but from a curriculum standpoint, Glenn Stevens can go over this for anyone else. It's a question that should be asked in the classroom because the purpose of the question.
Michael, maybe you will join me when I talk with Charlie Miller about this.
That's a really easy so that you can figure out.
And as well, because I do think that, to your point, and to everyone's time return, I think it does require ongoing.
Please convey my comment. If we talk to the test in Verona, every student in Verona would be scoring 1850 on the SAT. Because we would be doing SAT prep. That's true. Because we would be spending a lot of time doing SAT prep. We would be teaching methods on taking the test because that's how you can score a high score on the SAT. We would be, right? That's what every district that outperforms Verona on the SAT and the ACT, we've looked at the data for 12 years. Every district that outperforms us, that's in our socioeconomic category, has coursework, has a formality around ACT and SAT.
We're tonight
So
not
if-
talking about ACT.
We're talking about is the question that continually comes up over and again is becoming very, very, very frustrating for me. That there seems to be a constant attack that the school district in Verona is secretly or in a conniving or in a nefarious way teaching to the test. way better on we want. I'm just saying, I know what it says, but we do not teach to the test. That we don't. There's lots of tests we're supposed to teach to. And I'll give you one, we are trying to figure out how we can put some formality around ACT and SAT prep. We are trying to do that to allow students who want that to prepare for the tests. But
As
as
a
a
separate
rule,
offering, I would agree.
But
That
we
would be
don't-
a very good thing, a separate offering to say, for the children who are getting ready for
Right.
these
So-
big tests, we offer a separate
so wherever we
piece
find,
with it.
wherever we find in our newer curriculum with first year of PAR, whether it's scheduling of how we do the test, whether it's accommodating students that opt out, whether it's dealing with the parental concerns and questions, we're learning just as fast as everybody else.
I do
That's
feel
right.
that from it, and I do sense that, and I think you've been very sincere, John, really, through this whole, as you say, difficult process for everyone involved. And for that, thank you.
So they'll check what this says and what the intention is and how it's being executed in the classroom. And if we're spending an inordinate amount of time doing something that's wasteful, we don't want to be doing wasteful things. Period. And one of the most wasteful things that's happened since January is the amount of classroom time taken away so the kids can sit in the room and test. It's taking a lot of time. We don't want to be doing that. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we've done in Verona is in anticipation of how impactful and how disruptive PARC would be. Last year and the year before, we declared that we were going to do away with midterm exams and other assessments of our own to alleviate the amount of testing that these students are going through. We were the first school district to say we're doing away with midterms because of this.
We spent a long time developing our benchmarks and our moving.
Right. So anyway, so if they're spending an enormous amount of time, certainly. Anybody else? All right, our next meeting is on Tuesday, May 12th. We have a confidential session at 7 o'clock and a public session following that at 8. We don't have a, just before we close, when do we final budget adoption? It's done.